everyone, and welcome to the Jen Marples Show. Today, I have a gorgeous guest. Her name is Cherie Healey. And you need to know, when I met her, her essence and her aura and her vibe drew me in. I was like, oh, you are one of my people. And I instantly fell in love with her. And so are you today. And she is a board certified coach, and she is founder of Siren, which is an imagination studio, which sounds so fabulous. But basically, she and her team help leaders, teams, and individuals find their true calling, their true siren call. That's how that whole name came to be. So I love the work that Cherie is doing in the world, and she is going to share her genius with all of you today. But before we get into all of that, let's welcome Cherie. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just selfishly glad that we get to spend this hour together, and I get to share you with my peeps.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jen. It's such a pleasure. And I love what you're doing in the world. I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the women and all the men and children too.
Yeah, there are some kids and men who follow me. So, great.
Well, they benefit from
But they do benefit. They
coming
do.
together to listen to you, and what you give women to keep riding the waves is affecting everyone in our lives. So it's phenomenal work.
Well, thank you. I accept. I'm not going to talk. This is a learning for all of you. If someone gives you a compliment, accept it. Don't talk it away. Accept it and say thank you. Thank you, Cherie. That means the world to me that you said that. So there we are, starting off at the top with a lesson. But ladies, you need to hear about Cherie and all the wonderful things that she's been doing. And she's just kind of rebranded herself and gone through a whole process and is launching something new. But before we get into everything she's doing today, rewind for us, Cherie, and tell us where you've been and how you got to what you're doing today.
Okay. All right. So it's been quite a ride, as I'm sure we could all say. It's been quite a ride that we've arrived at midlife, and we've been through some things. My journey really started as a little kid. I have a deep memory of laying in bed at night as a little person, asking big questions that no one seemed to be able to answer, like, who are we and why are we here? And how might I rock this life before it's over? I really wanted to understand how to do it well. And that led me on a whole heroine's journey, like we're all on, to search for those big answers. And I studied with scholars. I lived in an ashram. I did all the psychology, philosophy, theology that a girl could put her hands on. And my whole bookshelf was all what we used to call back in the 1900s self-help, self-improvement. I just wanted to learn. And that, really had me want to study psychology. And my dad, I remember at the time, was like, what are you going to get paid as a psychologist, Lades? Like, you got to go to business. And so I split the difference and studied marketing, because that was business psychology. So I thought, well, at least I'm going to get that, because I wanted to understand what it is to be human. And it was an amazing thing. I think I always tell people, every single step you've made on the journey is for a reason and led you to this very moment. And I used to kind of complain that I ended up caving and did that. But what it led me to is this work of helping leaders really own their brand, really own your personal brand and the brand of your organization. So I did marketing in the beginning for startups in the internet world when it was just popping. And I was a creative director, and I loved it. And I loved building brands from the inside out. I'd say I was doing marketing from the inside out, because I wanted that every single organization actually lived and breathed their brand promise. And then there was a day, Jenmarples, where I remember working in LA for big tech startup. And I was looking out at the ocean, and everybody in this board meeting was talking about the bottom line this, bottom line that. And I was like, dude, I don't know that my bottom line is the same as theirs. Like, I want to know why everybody got out of bed today, and why are they here at this table, and are they happy? And are we all happy sitting around this table, like doing what we're here to do? And it was just, again, those big, huge questions that led me to studying my face off to become a life coach. As a tiny kid, all I wanted to do was talk about life. And it's hilarious that my podcast is now finally going to begin, because podcasts are just the greatest, just sit here and have these big talks about life. And I ended up studying ages to finally give myself permission to leave being within corporate, to jump outside of it and help from the outside, and become a full-time entrepreneur. So I've been running this chapter of my work, of my career, for the last 16 years.
Oh, I love it. And you're also a mother. So there's some mothering that was happening behind the scenes as well.
That's why, and that is so, it's so right on that you bring that up, because that being a mama informed why I'm here now doing this, because I was working for the big man for all my career. And then when I got pregnant, I thought, you know what? I need to be home with these babies, at least for the beginning, and I committed that I wanted to lay the foundation for them for the first 5 years-ish, get them off to kindergarten. And so I thought, I'm going to go do that, but at the same time, study and prepare to show them what it is to go for your dream. I learned somewhere along the way, we spend 90,000 hours at our job. Ooh. And I thought, I'm 90,000 hours away from them, or 90,000 hours showing them doing something that I didn't love, that I wasn't made for. So, there's the sort of seeds that were planted for Siren, because I need everyone to be doing what they were born to be doing, to at least find learning and joy in what you're doing. And I wanted the kids to witness that. So I was working from home before WFH was a thing, and helping people around the globe on the phone. And now the kids talk about it, that it really impacted them to see that I didn't have to do a 9-to-5 job, and that they don't either. And they're wildly entrepreneurial. And they said they listened to my calls, me talking about life to great leaders, their whole little lives, and they're wise beings, those little kids. Well, they're not little anymore, 18 and 20.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I think you bring up something really important, and that is by stepping into what we're meant to do. Because I too know that what I'm modeling for my kids now is this possibility, and that anything is possible. And actually, my son, we're looking at colleges, he's 16. Oh my God, he's almost 18. He's a junior. That entrepreneurship is on his radar. And I'm like, well, of course, my husband owns a business too. And they see us both work from home, we're running around, we're doing things, but we're making things happen. And they know that the kids are still at the focal point. But I'm very acutely aware that my daughters are looking at a woman in her 50s who had launched something new, and I've involved them in my business. And that is more important than anything that they're going to learn in school. And your kids are picking that up too. It's that grit, it's the life, it's the possibility, it's not being, boxed in. And I also want to say something else, because I think we're kindred spirits, that I've always felt like I wasn't maybe completely understood. And I always had these big problems. I was an English major. I'm like, I should have been like a philosophy major or something. It's like the why and the existential crisis. I feel like I have one every other day of that. And I'm too was like reading all the books and doing all the things. And I'm constantly questioning, if somebody's got a book, if you got more books, like bring them on me. I want to read them and learn and grow. But I just love, and I know we're going to get into this, that you've made it your mission to extract that from leaders. And I'm going to give you this story because I'm sure you run into this, and I'd love to hear how this transforms for you. Somebody was going to be doing some work with, he was a male, he was like in his 60s, but I was going to speak at his event. And he had said that he's one person at work and he's another person at home. And it broke my heart. But I'm like, I know it's a generational thing. And I know it's kind of what that societal expectations of both men and women, what we both have. And I was like, wow, we should all show up as the same person. And I know that's what you're all about. It's like that integration. It's like showing up as your authentic self, because that makes you, well, happier and a better leader, and all of these things that you're going to tell us all about. So just wanted to bring that up because it was like a heartbreaking thing. And like, we're both doing that work to sort of change that, everyone's stepping into who they're meant to be. So before we get into, because you're going to give, ladies, you're going to get this wisdom from Cherie. Don't you worry. I want to know how it was for you, because I know you've just gone through your own process of a deeper discovery to now launch this this kind of next phase of your business to find your siren call. How was that for you to kind of go through what you take other people through?
Oh man. Well, we usually teach what we're here to learn, And I think my so I learned along the way, and I guess we'll say this is one of the pieces of wisdom that I'd love to drop with everybody, is that the greatest career strategy is to go where you'll be used for your essence. And I work on this with people, and my group, like you, we're largely working with women. I can say, women are ready for this work and have been ready and shown up. Probably 90% of my practice is women, and then I have this 10 to 15% of like amazing, conscious, beautiful men. And the work of understanding your essence, what you're really here to give, was what gave birth to this desire in me to have everyone bring it. The world needs you was like my tagline, is come on, like this let me pull that essence from you and have you stand in it and own it. And that was the call for the first 15 years of my practice in coaching these great leaders. And then, menopause, and I'm 53, and everything in me changed. And for anyone in the audience who's a little woo, I will do whatever it takes to get results. So I go all the way woo. And I also go super like quantum physics and scientific evidence-based tools. The numerology is a very interesting thing. And there's this woman who created creativenumerology.com, and you find your number, what cycle you're in. They're 9. And last year I was in a 9 cycle. And that means it's the ending of an era. Like all things must go. It's the yard sale of your life. And I can say I'm kind of on the other side of menopause now. As we know, it takes a while, but I feel like I went through the worst of it. And so it was so wild that 9 cycle coincided with my astrology, my chart, that everything that has happened to me to date needed to be like reviewed and cleared. So it was a major year of endings, and I felt really benched in a way, like taken out of the game. And this is something that I think is so necessary for all of us. If we are to give birth to something or create something new, there needs to be a period of withdrawal, a period of ending, interrupting, letting go. And that was my last year. And I fought it to the nail. I was like, I can't stop. This, Jen, as entrepreneurs, we don't get paid if we stop. And I had to literally give myself time out to just let go of so many things. And this year I'm in a 1 year, and it's the brand new beginning of all new things. And it's truly that. I had to go into the past in order to move into the future and confront all the shadows and all the fears and everything that no longer served. And boy, did it take a village. And here I am. And what came through was this new focus for the work. I'm still coaching, and I'm still coaching impact-driven leaders, but it's now about answering the call. And I say, my calling is to help you answer yours. And it's just super dialed in to work with people on finding their purpose. So I think I had to go through really that first. And that seems to be the work, is I always have to walk through the fire first, and then I can help others.
And well, don't they say that we always create something, the tools for the person that we used to be? Because I definitely know that that's what I do. So I needed me several years ago when I was going through sort of we'll call it a midlife crisis, the big breakdown to get to the breakthrough. I needed me. I needed my podcast. I needed you. I needed all of us. And then, but we didn't exist for then, but we all had, but I firmly believe that everything that we've done leads to where we are right now. You can't skip around. Like that all had to happen. The highs and lows, especially those lows, and the deconstruction and having that dark night of the soul, or whatever you want to call it, has to happen. Yeah. And I love that idea of shedding too, of just kind of shedding, because I do believe, talking to so many women at midlife, and I've had doctors on the show, all women from all walks of life all say the same thing. At this midlife phase, we're called for more. For women, I can
Yes.
speak for women. Women are called for more. So it's like, we can't just go sell widgets on the street, even if you'll make $1 million a year. It's not going to be fulfilling. It's not going to be sustaining. We need to be tapped into something higher.
Yeah.
And that's why we're talking today. And of course, because I just adore you and love you, but you're going to share with everyone because I know everyone has a calling. There's
Everyone.
something deep down. And probably the scarier thing is to listen, right? It's like to actually listen to it and allow yourself to hear it, honor it, and go for it. I almost get emotional thinking about it because I
Yeah.
just think of myself not allowing myself to do something. I know you responded when I just said that because we've all done it. All you listening, we probably are. I'm probably still holding myself back on something.
We all are. And it's the internalized patriarchy. We are all holding back. You and I know we're in a sister group, and every woman I've ever worked with, I don't care what her title, usually I'm working with people at a C level, at a high level, or they're founders, and they still have the imposter syndrome. They're still struggling to find their voice. We are all in that. We all have the shadow. We all have the wound. We all have all our parts. And I swear, if we don't have each other to normalize that and remind ourselves what we're made of, it's really hard.
It is really hard. And everyone has heard me talk about this ad nauseum on the show, but it's aligning with that right group of women and definitely walking away from people that aren't serving you anymore. I think it's been proven in science that the number one predictor of just longevity and long life is community and connection. So I'm not going to go swing off on that conversation because I have it a lot. But when we're doing this work and showing up, and it doesn't have to be 1 million people, it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be in person. It's just if you're intentional about finding those people, you're going to find those people. And you've heard me say it here before. I found so many great peeps just during COVID when no one could go anywhere. There are people that are dear to me that were so important that I've never met in person. I probably never will.
Yeah.
So little sidebar on that. So let's get into it.
Okay.
So many women right now are like, okay, Jen, it's easy for you to, I think a lot of, and this, I'm going to put myself in this camp too. It's easy for you guys to say you've done all this work and this is that and the other. Yes, there is work to be done, but I know everyone has something on their heart. If you dig deep enough, if you listen to yourself, there's something, and you're probably going to find that it's been a through line throughout your life.
Yeah.
And now it's really coming to be. How do women access that? Let me rephrase it. So at this midlife phase,
Mm.
it's this crossroads. We're feeling this call for more. We don't know where to begin. How do we even begin to access it? What would be sort of your top 3 to 5 bits of advice to get us to that deeper place to help us find our siren call?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first off, I think you named it. We all have one. And I want to demystify, this whole search for purpose, search for meaning. It's not as hard as you think. And I really I do a 9-week Find Your Ideal Job course, which really, it's only named that because I think that's easy for people to grasp, and they all want to be doing work that they love. But it really is a course in finding your purpose. And people are like, 9 weeks, I can do it that fast? I've been searching my whole life. And I'm like, well, I did the searching for you. So it's so much simpler than we make it. And I think that goes back to what systems of power have been feeding us since we were born. Religion and government and healthcare. I don't know. There are these great bodies of power that want to tell us that we're not good. I was born an Irish Catholic girl, so I was told I was, full of sin the minute I arrived. So, whatever you've been fed or told really needs to be looked at, because my belief is we come in encoded with all the talents and gifts that we are here to give, that if not shared are lost to the world forever. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, okay, wait. We come in with a roadmap, some believe that's like, all encoded in our hands. I've had palm readers who can tell you a thing just based on your hands. Your chart tells you there are all these ways that we could slice and dice that you were born with something so needed. And then the systems that be tell you you need to get certificates and credentials and learn things and like that. Oh, well, but that's just something I naturally do. It's like, yes, that actually can be monetized. I have so many women come to want to find a thing and they're like, well, but now I need to go back to school. And I'm like, but do you? Sometimes, I mean, you and I are growth junkies. I love to learn, but for a long time, my love of learning had a shadow side to it, which all things do. But the back of the hand with that was that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know enough, and I didn't have enough value. And that is not true. Now I just drew a line in the sand and I'm like, I learned for fun now. I learned because why not? But not from that place of lack, because I was literally born to do what I do. And people tell me all the time, like, when you're doing what you love, when you're doing what you were born to do, and you know this, Jen Marples, because every time I'm with you, you're like a ball of fire. You could be poorly slept. We're working moms. A lot of people take a look at me and they think, well, you must have had a privileged life. Look at you. You're so happy. I've been through fucking hell and back. Trauma, every single one of them, big T, little t, all of them. And it's the being connected to what brings you alive, what gives you joy, like my pursuit of knowing life and why we're here. I'm shaking right now. It's like it's a Shakti. People know this as Shakti, Prana, Chi. Your life force gets just unleashed. And I'm still poorly slept. I don't like to sleep because I feel like there's too much to do and too much life to be lived and too much sex to have and all things but it is like I can do anything because I'm connected to that little girl who just wanted to have the big talks. So I think for everyone listening, you do know at some level of your being what you're here for. And as we know, the more you approach midlife, why I call it the siren, it's a burning starts. Like it gets like almost urgent. And I think what we know is it's a burning longing in us, especially at this age, but pair that with the moment that we're in human history, the very truth that if you're alive at this moment in human history, I think you are here for a very big reason. Like, did we all collectively come back for this crazy apocalyptic show, to do a thing? And the Dalai Lama said the world would be healed by us, the women. So feeling into that desire and owning it is a gift. It's like the longing. When I lived in the ashram, my guru said to me, the greatest prayer that you could ever make is to ask for more longing.
Oh, wow.
Not what you hear, right? People are like, oh, the road to hell is paved with desire. Like there's a lot of people who will say that's not true. I think this is where the fire of the siren is in all of us, in the fire. And the longing is something to listen to and to not tolerate obstacles. So there's a great book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. And I think this is like, I'm also trained in yoga. I've been studying the Tantra since I was 25. And this idea that life is going to bring you obstacles, Ganesh in the yoga is both the obstacle and the obstacle remover. It's this, I used to say to the kids, there's always a way and there's no plan B for me, not for me. Like I knew this was what I was going to do, come hell or high water, single momming in the most expensive place on the planet, raising 2 kids, doing this with no steady income. You know what it is. It's like up and down as an entrepreneur. And I was just doing it. I'm throwing myself in to serve. I know, and I made this, and these are all my bits and pieces woven together. My work with so many entrepreneurs or any leader in corporate or outside, I don't care. You make a divine contract, and it doesn't need to be that you're spiritual, but like you're saying to the universe, I know my calling, and you nailed it, Jen. It's I hear my calling. I have heard it. I am answering it, and I am making it. This is what I help people with, is how do you set yourself up to hear the call first off, and to then answer it, which is so courageous. And then how do you speak it into the world is really the marketing piece. Why I had to go to marketing school. So to stop and actually own that longing is there for you. Liz Gilbert talks about this. She talks about how we get chosen, something comes through us, an idea or something that we know we need to shepherd, and to say yes to it and then make a contract with the universe that I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to serve and I'm going to help people. And then in exchange, and this is what I know we're all so terrible at as women, receiving. I am going to receive all the abundance that I need in order to reach all the people. I'm gonna let you give me all the supplies in the supply cabinet, all the teachers when I need them, the village of sisters. I will gladly accept in exchange for my service. I work for the universe. That's really important. And I think you tell your listeners this all the time. You have to be surrounded by a circle of people who really believe in you. And I call them sisters, allies. There's nothing that advances us, accelerates us, amplifies us more quickly than a circle of sisters, because it's in our bones. Primally, that's what we're made of. That's what we used to do in order to survive. So I tried to do a lot of it alone. And that's where I would tell my younger self, knock that shit off. You don't need to do it all by yourself. We should never. I have siren circles of women who come together, and without a curriculum, without an agenda, we say we're going to do a thing. And just by being together regularly and mirroring back to each other, when we forget, we get all the things. We magnetize. In this last sister circle, 3 homes were bought, a book deal was made. I mean, marriages were saved. It's like miraculous what we can do when we're shoulder to shoulder with each other. So I could keep going, but I've been talking a lot.
No, oh my God, that was awesome. I'm just like, give us more, give us more. That's all such important information. And I want to ask this question. So for the woman out there who's thinking, okay, I don't have time. Maybe I am also a single mom or not. We just have bills to pay. I've been doing XYZ job for 25 years. It's killing me, but I don't see a way out. Like, how do I change? Or let's start with that person, because there's a lot of that. And I put me in that camp years ago of like not seeing a way out till my body was saying, you have to have a way out because you actually are burned out. There's nowhere else to go because you're breaking down. And I see this a lot. And you and I, we've done a lot of work and we read a lot of the same books, and it's the constant, the self-work and self-awareness. And I don't want to sugarcoat any of this, that it just happens right away. But So for the woman who can't even see, who's just like, I've got all the things and I'm doing all the things, I know I'm meant to do something else, but how the hell do I even start? Like, can I do something on the side? Like, do I have to burn it all down? Like, what would you say to them? Because I know that's going to be a question that's being asked.
For sure. And I am never going to make it sound like, oh, it's just so simple. I'm saying it's doesn't take forever to find your purpose. That's true. There are things that are easier than we think, but all of us listening are at different stages in the fiery fucking heroine's journey that we all go through. And so why I say you've got to receive support is why I coach. There are people who have gone before, who are a few steps ahead. I'm surrounded by my village of intuitives, healers, shamans, wise women who are older than me, my younger ones who are wiser than a lot of the older ones. It's all of them. And I think their wisdom will shortcut a lot of the things, and also, make the feelings of being stuck go away, because I think there are very, very clearly times in our lives where we feel and are stuck. We're tolerating something that no longer serves. I remember feeling very stuck when I had little babies, because I was like, how do I even get a yoga session in? How am I ever going to be able to focus or go to the bathroom, for God's sakes, ever again? So they're really concentrated chapters that are harder for other reasons. But the knowing that, and this is where I always go to, that there's a 90-year-old self that we are going to become at some point, where we're going to look back on our lives, if we're blessed to live that old, and say, did I do what I wanted to do? Did I sing my song? Did I share my gifts? That's what drew me. And I will always work with people forward to have the vision of what you want I mean, we know our sister Bonnie Wan, who just owns that question like nobody else. What do you want? If you own that, your wants are not just allowed, but desperately needed. I think we're encoded with desire, as I said. And when you listen to those desires, they are our internal GPS. Then the vision of what life could be, like I always knew that I'd want to look back on my life and say I didn't play small, that I just lived like with my hair on fire. That idea, and then what I could also achieve for myself, financial freedom, the ability to take care of my babies, travel the world, those desires pull you forward out of the muck. When things get really hard, when I was in the middle of a divorce and launching my business for the first time with a 3 and a 5-year-old, it was so scary. And all I could think was, I'm going to live in a really cute little house, even though I have to give up the one that I thought I'd live in forever. I'm going to put my kids in these great schools. I'm going to just do it. I didn't know how. And here's the really important part. You do not need to know how. That is not our job. If you know what, and we help each other remember the what. So don't panic if you don't know what, but all we need to know is the what. What is that desire, that vision? And then the how every single time just blows our minds. I make more action plans with people, but what the universe provides, what shows up and how we can't make up. And I will never stop being in awe of that. So I'd say to that person who's feeling like, I have no idea how, don't worry. You find somebody who's gone there before and just start one little action step at a time. What's the next simplest step? And it unfolds like a red carpet.
Oh, and you just completely described what I went through myself. I woke up, and you guys have all heard this story. I woke up one day during COVID. I had been, still doing PR consulting, just on the DL. Every client was in a crisis, but the good Lord blessed me with the right client that maybe never want to do this again. But one day I woke up and it was like I was tapped, I was activated. It was go time. Higher, whatever you all believe in. I happen to believe in God, but it was like the Holy Spirit himself happened to tap me. Felt like I was activated. It was go time. It's like I heard a voice. I got the download. Jen, it's go time. And that was the middle of, it was, 2 years ago. So it was 2021, shit show, literally and figuratively, like everything was burning and on fire. It was death and destruction, politics, Me Too, like everything was blowing up. So I firmly believe too, I am a woo-woo person. I feel like there is a female sisterhood who is here to save the world. And that the underlying of everything I do is activism, to have all of you, like what Cherie's doing, you stand in your power and you stay true to you, because then we show up and we're going to be the ones to save us. We're going to be the ones to save us. And so was that unknowing. I didn't know how, but I took to my desk that day. I sat, it was 8 o'clock. It was like 8 o'clock at night when I left. I stayed in my pajamas. I didn't even go to yoga. And I just pumped out content. I was just like, I felt I was having a manic episode. And I woke up the next day and I kept wanting to do it. And here I am, 2 years later with everything going. And I still don't know exactly what it's all going to be. Well, I know my purpose, and I don't know the how of like all the different little tendrils and the things out there. But it's when you tap in and you allow, and this is what we're trying to collectively both share with all of you listening, is to not question. And this is, I think this the biggest thing, Cherie, and this is what we both say. I just want to underscore this, is giving yourself the permission to go for it and invest in yourself. Because I think that's where a lot of women stop, is that I can't work with a coach. I can't go to a group. I can't make a new friend. I can't join a networking group. I can't find a circle of women. You'll just stop yourself before you start. So when I had that calling, the first thing I did was there was a woman I was following who became my business coach. I didn't even care what she cost. Like, I was hiring her. Before I even got on, I knew I was hiring because I needed that. And she was fabulous. Jen, shout out to you. The accountability and the reflecting back that a lot of us need, because what Cherie is saying and what you hear me say all the time is we need each other. It is hard to do this alone. You can hear it, but you got to speak it into existence. So Cherie here can say, Jen, remember, this is what you're doing. I say this to the women in my masterminds. You've got these gifts. The world needs to know about them. Are you frozen? Shoot. Are you frozen? Are you there? Oh, shoot. I can't hear you. There you go.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, there you are. Oh, well, it ended. So that was wherever I was saying. Thank you. Thank God for editor. But I'm sure you see that all the time, and you work with all these leaders, and even them, you're probably saying they need to give themselves that next level of permission, right? I mean, don't we all, it's this universal thing. It's continuing to give yourself permission to be audacious and step into who you are.
Yes. And I think that's the brilliance of being the age that we are in midlife. I remember one of my teachers saying, I can't wait until I turn 50. And I was like, no way, you don't hear that very often, you know? And she was like, I can't wait because I'm not going to care what people think anymore. I'm going to just say whatever I'm here to say. There's so much freedom. There's that book called The Upgrade that says we need to rename this menopause shit anyway and say, like, this is the moment when we just get the upgrade. And with every hot flash, we burn off all the stuff that no longer serves and we step into our truth and our voice turns on. And I think giving ourselves the permission to take our fucking seats is so hard because we're still trying to do like Abby Wambach, you know, throw some tables over and we have to build a new system for ourselves. But I tell you what, that minute that I said, I have enough, I know that my presence and what I know so far is enough to start serving, was the moment that everything changed. And I don't know if anybody's like me like this. I would like literally read every book on a topic, like every book about childbirth, every book about parenting, every book about marriage, you know, to think like I'm going to know how to do a thing. And I'm so humbled to say that none of that is the way it works. It's like only marriage prepares you for marriage. Only having babies prepares you for parenting. It's like getting in the arena. And there was this stat that I always have to remind our women of, that it was from the Harvard Business Review. They found that every time a woman applies for a job, she thinks that she has to have 100% of the skills to take the job, right? Every man that applies for a job thinks he has to have about 60. And I'm like, come on now, you know, we're going to learn when we get in the arena. And it's that Brene Brown, you know, just like get in there and only listen to people who are in the arena with you.
Ooh, that stat, I've heard that, you know, sliced and diced a couple different ways. And the summary of that was something like people hire men for the possibility and they hire women like for like the experience or something like that. So yeah, it's exactly true. And that's how they've been conditioned. And my listeners have heard this before and I get on my high horse, but and you mentioned this before, we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned that, you know, why there's the pay disparity, there's all of that. We don't have time to go into all of that, but we've been conditioned to need 50 PhDs to apply to one job. We've been conditioned that we're too fucking old. Like once you hit 40, Cherie, I've talked to women in their 30s. I remember I was at a group, there was an online discussion about aging. So I'm thinking I'm going to come in with a bunch of like 40, 50-year-olds. Everyone was in their 30s. I was older by some of these women by 20 years and their jaws were dropping. When I said how old I was, I said, why are you guys having discussions about being old at 35?
Oh dear. Yeah.
So, I mean, we have a long way to go in society. And some of those women were going through fertility. So of course the medical community is telling them they're old, like you're an advanced, you know, that you're a grandma right now at 35 trying to have a baby. And I had my babies later. But imagine, like I was horrified. I said, the oldest woman in that group besides me was 37. I was like 52 at the time. I said, what are you guys doing here? So to think that they're feeling old in their 30s it's atrocious to me, but it's programming. It's not real. It doesn't, nothing. It's just because it keeps people in power. It keeps our seats limited. I know we could get on a whole high horse about this, but that's how I came up with you're not too fucking old. And I got challenged. It's like, why are you using the word fucking? I'm like, because you're not too old is like, whatever, but you're not too fucking old. It's like passion. It's fire. I just want to get women activated, understand and realize it's meant to be provocative to shake you up. And to get you to realize everything you're feeling, it's not real. It's all bullshit.
Yeah. And I would just go so far to say that those women who were in that conversation, I don't know who they were hanging out with, because the people that come to like the 30 somethings that are doing the work that, I'm doing, like this, helping them really come into themselves and know their purpose, they are so excited to learn from us. And I think we are seeing a very big shift right now in the understanding of what is age, the ageism that we saw maybe growing up or with the boomers. I feel like these young ones don't have that. They want to learn from us. They think we're rad, that we're wise, and we can help them. And I think it's amazing. And Chip Conley started the Modern Elder Academy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, modern elder, thank you. Yes. I would like to step into my priestess nature, be the queen that I am. Thank you. And they love it. They want to be trained to become queens.
Ooh, this fires me up because a lot of when I go to speak, there's this one group I'm actually going to be speaking as we're recording this tomorrow night, and it's going to be a cross section of women, and it's probably going to heavily go into women in their like 30s, so women who are starting families and all of that. And I actually love speaking to this age group too for this very reason,
Yeah.
because they see that it's not all over and it's not, nothing's possible, everything is possible. Because again, it's just like marriage, tick, babies, tick, you need to do all these things, but no one is saying and showing the way after you have these babies and these babies go off. It's like it was supposed to end, but it's actually just beginning. And then we can share the lessons, we can share how not to do it. Like, I'm happy, I know you're happy to share, like, we all learn those lessons. We don't want you to have to suffer and fail and flail like we did, and trying to do it all like we were all taught to do, like have 80 jobs and 80 kids and be fabulous. And that, like, no, that led to
Oh,
burnout. And I talk freely about that. So I love that you mentioned that, because isn't that's what the elders are supposed to do? And like, let's make elders sexy. Okay. Like, we are
uh-huh.
not showing up in muumuus. We are showing up in cute dresses and
Oh,
whatever. Like,
oh.
hello.
And I would like to underscore that and put it in bold, because I learned from one of my teachers that as we age, our sexual energy increases, not decreases, people. And the sexual energy is the fire. It's not just, sexy. It's your Shakti. It's your power. The seat of your power rises. So you become more magnetic, more all those things that I think, I don't know, whatever generation decided to give us the story that everything just goes downhill. It's not true.
Oh, it's 100% not true. And we could talk about that forever, because you're not
Uh-huh.
too fucking old. And I was going to say something earlier. When you're really steeped in your purpose and you've done your work and you're like, all right, this is what I want to do. I've literally had more people come up to me in the last 2 years as I've gotten older and told me, God, your skin looks really great, or this or that. And it has nothing to do with my skin, it's my energy. But I do
Yeah.
look back at pictures. I look younger now. I do Botox, people. Like, this is not about that. It's energetic, because of being, when you're beaten down and you're not in your purpose and passion, you're working so hard and you're so stressed, and you can see it and it seeps through your pores. So it's like, I have no secret creams. I don't have, like I said, I do Botox, but I firmly believe it's because when you're living in that, it's an energetic field that people are drawn to. They say skin, but it's not really skin.
No.
And it's like, when I saw you, I was so attracted to, I'm like, you're the most gorgeous woman. Like, it's because it's your energy, it's coming out of your heart chakra, your soul. So when you're steeped in your purpose and passion, we could go on this tangent forever. And like, you meet people, like, I've met women who are in their 70s and I'm like staring at, you're the most gorgeous human being I've ever seen, because I get emotional. It's because you're so tapped into who you are. And
Yeah.
so this is what Cherie and I want for all of you. It's just to give yourself permission to explore and tap in and reach out if you need help, and find those women, because there's nothing but upside, and we have half our lives left to live
Yeah.
this beautiful, rich, deep, fulfilling life.
Well, and let's give them this too, Jen, because I think everything that you just said is so it. It's like, I talk about like turning up your wattage, like that's what you're experiencing. And we see it in the great yogis. They all reverse age. I look at pictures of myself when I was a kid, because I'm packing, moving right now. And I'm like, oh, who was that lady? Like, I do feel better in all the ways now than I did when I was little. But I want to say that this is why that I went into the darkest shadows of myself. The energy only gets turned up when the blockages get cleared. Like, you have to be brave to go into the descent. We know all the mythology of the descent down into the bottom of our beings and into the shadows of ourselves and into the darkest closets. That's what frees us. And I think that's the scary work. And I was just talking to another sister of ours today, and she was like, Cherie, the shadow is the light. And I'm like, that is so well said.
Mm-hmm.
That in my Tantra, it's non-dual, right? All is well. Everything's good. Everything is divine and holy. The darkest days, the dark nights of the soul, and the brightest days, we're here for all of it. And I used to be about happiness. I used to even call myself Chief Joy Officer. I was like, I'm gonna make all the women happy. And then I was like in a Tony Robbins workshop for a minute because I coached for him. And I thought to myself, well, this is silly, lady. What about all the days that you're not happy? And is that really the point? Because so far, it looks like life is a real wild ride. And I don't want to only be doing it right when I'm happy. And so I think what you and I have both been through and what we know is true is to feel all the flavors, all the rasas as they are in Sanskrit. It's like all the ups and downs of life, the dark and the light, are equal and here for a reason. And that work we know is hard to do alone, but I just want for anyone who's feeling like they're really in it right now to be like, that's okay, because that's when everything starts to shift.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. And I'll spare you all from my story because you've all heard it ad nauseum. But yeah, it was deep and dark. But then there's the beauty. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And that's what Cherie's saying. It's don't be afraid, lean into it.
Yeah.
And then everything's on the other side of that, right? And I do, if anyone is listening right now and is in it, you know me, I'm always there for you. I've been there. And that's why I'm so transparent. It's no one leaves this earth unscathed. And it's
Yeah.
just giving yourself that permission to face it, deal with it, clear it. Not to mean that there's not going to be another clearing. There's always like upgrading and clearing to happen, but you get to this other beautiful place. And just knowing
Yeah.
that duality, because it's just, you don't hit a place and all of a sudden life's perfect. You've got a life and kids and partners and parents and community. And there's just, it's riding these waves, but getting clear on who you are, doing that work, having tools so then it doesn't rock you. So you're not like thrown off a cliff when those waves come. I don't know why I just got all into that wave and cliff analogy, but
You're tapping into my favorite. It's my metaphor for life, which is surfing. It's just, we just want to become good surfers.
right.
You
Just want to
know,
learn how to ride the waves.
ride the waves and enjoy the ride. I say that on loop.
Oh my God, I could talk to you all day, Cherie. Oh my God, I could talk to you all day. So I have one final question before a final question for you. What do you think the best thing is about being at midlife?
Oh my God. Well, the, the first thing that I was going to say that just came to my mind when you said that was the sex.
We'll take it.
I mean, but I'll go one step beyond that, because I mean, we could talk about that on a whole nother podcast too. But I think it's owning your voice. I really think that it's you stepping into your value, your worth. I think we spend a lot of our years in our wounds, the one we were born with, the ones that happen to us as we come along. And then at some point, it's like, okay, I'm enough. I'm actually more than enough. And I got something to say. So good.
Ooh, I love that. And
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's like you think about that. All of you can think about that. The wounds, the what was done to us, maybe how you're raised, a breakup, a job firing. That's really interesting that you just said that, because that just kind of puts things in a different framework. And now we get to choose the story. We're not the wounds. All those things made us who we are. It's like this theme that we've had through this whole conversation. All that had to happen to get to where you are today. But
Yeah.
you're not that. That's not your story.
No. And I think it's one of the first places I go when I'm looking for someone's purpose is, what was your trauma? What have you been struggling with your whole life? Because your purpose is right in there.
Oh, I think you guys can see why Cherie is very good at what she does. She makes grown men and leaders cry. Face it. All right. I want you to complete the sentence to me. I'm not too fucking old, too.
Answer the siren call, baby.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There's never too late to step into who you are here to be. And there's never any arrival point either. It's forever evolving and iterating. And there's a thing about the universe I call moreness. There will always be more. And so it's never too late.
I love it. What a great way to end. So where can everybody find you, support you, get more of Cherie?
Oh, thanks, honey. I think the sirencall.com. It's depending on when you're all listening and whether or not the site has been all updated. We're talking about this new version of my work before it's really gone live. And so CherieHealey.com is also a way to go. And it's Cherie.Healey on Instagram. And it's spelled with a C. So that's easy.
And we're going to link all of that in the show notes. And we're going to link all those fabulous books you talked about in the show notes. So you all are going to be fully equipped to make some big changes and have just some thought and some introspection and just sit with yourself. Just take this, if you've listened to this on a walk or in the car, listen to it again. This is something you're going to want to come back to, I think, and just be with it, allow, give yourself permission. So thank you, Cherie, so much for sharing your gifts with everyone today. I know you're going to change lives for sure.
Thank you for having me, love.